Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney Freya, and I'm here to share with you kind of a live sneak peek into the Life Artist Masterclass that I created really out of a desire and an intention to share kind of some foundational information that can, one, help people maybe align with, understand better what I mean living as a life artist, give you some tools, and also to really activate a new awareness around what I believe to be an energy and state of being in abundance that's available to us in every moment. And that word abundance is, right, like we've been hearing it over and over and over. And it's a chapter in my book, Rise Above. And I've experienced the shift in that happens when you separate it from the kind of Western capitalist definition of abundance, with money and possessions. And I think a lot of us have always understood that that's not what true abundance is. But then it's kind of like we haven't necessarily been given what real abundance is or how to cultivate it, right? And so this was just my offering, world of kind of like how to do that. And so it's really exciting and it's simple and it's guided by these 5 symbols. And I figured I'd share my screen and kind of take you guys into just to kind of give you an overview. And then I also love intuiting sacred symbols that you can use yourself right now. And I think I'll explain that a little bit more kind of once I share the symbols from the Life Artist course. And then this Life Artist course is, if you're not already in it, it's free, available on my online classroom or online studio. And so you can hop in there and experience it too. It's not a super long thing or anything. And I did the videos like out in the beautiful area where I live, and I think it's fun, so you'll enjoy it as well. And so the first major shift that I invite you into, and when I look back, and I think you guys will all be able to do this too, when I look back when I was a young child, and I was exposed to spirituality in the form of religion. Like my grandmother went to church and she was always trying to get us to go to church, and my parents took me for like one fall semester of Sunday school because they wanted us to kind of know what it was all about, but they didn't really believe in any of it, right? And so I had this ongoing dialogue as a kid, like, so if you all believe in like heaven and eternity and all of this, why are you like sweating the small stuff? Right? Like, why do you think God couldn't part the Red Sea? Like, why are we debating if God could part the Red Sea when you're saying, God's this omnipotent divine source? Like, there was just a lot of discrepancy in that. And so for me today, I feel completely comfortable myself coming from a place of I am an infinite being having a human experience. And so just that shift right there, as an infinite being, like, how can there be scarcity if you're an infinite being? And then honestly, like wrestling with that, if you're like, okay, Whitney, whatever, right? Like, so what does that mean? And I'm not going to be able to probably answer everybody's questions about, like take you to the place of living as an infinite being if you're not there yet. And if you're curious, like there's a lot of information, quantum physics and everything's energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It can just be recreated or transformed. So, there are a lot of ways to kind of wrap your mind around it. And then what if living the story of you as an infinite being just works better? Right? Because you don't know for sure you're not an infinite being. Like I might not be able to prove to you that you are, but you also can't prove to me that you're not. So touche, right? Like, let's just see how this works. So that's what I love. Like, I love just putting on different lenses and seeing how that works, right? And of course, I grew up in a family that's very practical and logical, and I can't talk to them about any of this stuff, right? So I just love to share and see how it works for people. So this is inside my classroom. You can go to this whitneyfreya.teachable.com, or also whitneyfreyastudio.com gets you there, and you can join this course. And there is a video for each course, and then this PDF download as well. So I'm just going to kind of show you, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, of course. And so this first symbol on this journey, so if you're taking notes at all or whatever, want to remember there are 5 symbols that were given to me to kind of illustrate this journey, living as a life artist and living in this state of abundance. And so this infinity symbol is the first one. And the whole idea is from a place of infinite perspective, how do things look differently? Like, you can just ask yourself, like I remember a friend was visiting, and she was getting like super upset about a friend who got lost up in the mountains on Mount Shasta, and she was just like judging, why did she do that, and all these people and money and rescue and all that, and you know, and I was just like, whoa, like, as an infinite being, do you really care? Not that you don't care about this woman, but like, what is all this? Like, who knows? Maybe she got lost in the mountain and she survived, and maybe like a bevy of people will not do what she did because she illustrated that, right? So it gives you space, and it gives other people space to just be in a state of allowance around what this life experience is providing for you. You know, there's not this like desire to control as much as a desire to open. Right? And with each of these symbols, there's an ritual, like an experience you can have. And one of the reasons, a main reason I teach painting is because the canvas makes visible. The canvas makes an experience into this. So we can talk and think about like, okay, what is, you know, living as an infinite being? And you can look at the blank canvas, right? And ask yourself, okay, is there an end to the list of what I could create at that canvas? Like, there's not even a list to the end of the shades of red you could create at that canvas, you know, like there is no limit. And so we use the blank canvas to understand, like, right, truly there's no end. There's no end to the different words or stories or things I could communicate to you all right now. You could choose to turn me off if you decided that, you know, I was speaking nonsense, but like, we have within us infinite possibilities of what we can think, what we can say, how we can move in the world, how we can interpret events. And so my suggestion is, what if we focus more on the infinite possibilities inherent in this physical life rather than the limitations, right? So that's the first step. And then the second symbol in this life artist journey, and after this I'll kind of explain what I mean by kind of working with a symbol, right? But the second symbol in this, sorry, I don't seem to be able to like speak and negotiate this, is the heart. And so the second step to like opening up to this abundance is, what if everything that's happened to me in life and everything that's around me and everything that I'm experiencing is actually here to love me? Like, what if love really is the only thing that's real? I was just listening to that MC Yogi song. What if, you know, we all have experiences of something really challenging that happened to us, but we also understand that we're wiser or stronger or more compassionate or a better teacher or coach or guide or mother or whatever because of that challenging experience, right? You guys have probably all had that. So it's really, again, taking that and understanding that, like Course in Miracles says, at any given point, we're either coming from fear or love. So what if, and I know I've spent plenty of time in fear, but what if we really anticipated for ourselves or chose, like, okay, I'm going to choose to look at life from an infinite perspective rather than scarcity, because why not? And I'm going to choose to practice looking at everything as being here to love me, right? Like the other day I was driving to a friend's house, and classic, like, I don't know if you guys can just walk out of the house and leave, but I always have to walk in and out a couple of times because I forget something. And I was driving by, and it's this old lady, Grace, who lives, right there before Todd's house. And I always look to see if she's out on the front porch and wave. And just as I passed by, I saw her like stumble off the front porch and like hold onto the railing and just spin around and fall on the front. She's in her like late 80s or something. So I like hopped out of the car and was there like as soon as she like stopped hitting the ground, kind of thing. And I was just like, Grace, like, I'm so glad I forgot what I had in the house, because otherwise I would have already been pulled in the driveway and no one else was there. And she was like caught on one of those little fence things that you stick the little flag on, and you know what I mean? So like, it's funny little things, but the difference that life can offer you when you look at these things that are happening from a place of love, like, okay, here's a doozy. I don't know why this is happening, right? But how is this here to love me? Living as a life artist, it keeps you in a state of possibility, of creativity, right? Rather than shutting down, rather than judging something as being bad or wrong, or you've failed or made a mistake or not good enough. Like, what if, like I've talked to people who are like, oh, I'm so ADHD. And I'm like, I am so glad you're ADHD, because you are someone who is like really skilled at, tapping into lots of different things and ideas, and you don't become like rigid and one track mind, and you're always open. Like, that's, I believe, a strength. That can really be a strength, because the opposite, I would rather be ADHD, I probably am too, but then like one of those laser beam focused, like rooted, like don't tell me anything other than what I believe, right? So I really think anything that that we've experienced is there to help us and to love us. And so the invitation to connect to this symbol is just to paint a heart. And I've gotten so many people painting hearts, and there's that logical left brain that's like, oh, this is like kindergarten stuff, but let me like wait until you paint your next heart. It is so fun. And these symbols, and this is, I'll talk a little bit about working with symbols. The symbol, like the heart, the infinity symbol, has been around since like the beginning of time, right? It's always meant the same thing. Like, symbols don't need translation, right? You don't have to like read a symbol. You just see it and you know what it means, right? So imagine from an energetic standpoint, these symbols are loaded with like bajillions of people over thousands of years looking at them and getting that same energy or vibration. So they're like a terabyte computer chip or more, like full of information and wisdom that will meet you where you are, right? So the infinity symbol, and when I use these in meditation, like whether I'm painting meditation or eyes closed, imagining an infinity symbol, it will speak to me in different ways at different times, depending on what it is that will serve me. Like sometimes the infinity symbol is up and down, and it's reminding me to like ground or charge, or reminding me of that kind of union of heaven and earth, or reminding me to breathe. Like it will meet you where you are. The heart may remind you to breathe into your heart. It may remind you to apply compassion to a certain situation. It may remind you to focus on what you love. It may remind you of a seed, or like something about to bloom, and maybe you remember the teaching that the desires that are in your heart have been planted there very specifically, not just randomly and because you're like, selfish and you just want to experience this joy. Like, that idea that brings you joy has been given to you so that you can create it into this reality, right? And so maybe it'll remind you of kind of a bloom. I have a picture somewhere in something of a fern. There's like a fern that the leaves are about to unfurl, but when they're closed, it looks just like a heart. It's really beautiful. Everyone's collecting heart rocks, and I mean, hearts can speak to you in so many different ways. So when you work with these symbols, it can be drawing them with a ballpoint pen on a Post-it note or several Post-it notes and sticking it around your house, right? It can be painting it. It can be closing your eyes and meditating with it. And another word for that is a yantra. So like if you've heard of a mantra, which is, you know, like words that are meant to kind of clear your mind and raise your vibration so that you can access that higher perspective. A yantra is a symbol that's used to do the same thing. And it can be easier to sit down and imagine a symbol rather than sit down and just try and do nothing. I mean, at least for me. I don't know about you guys, but that can be a lot easier. So that's how, like, working with a symbol is just kind of inviting it in and having a conversation with it, either imagining it in your mind's eye, drawing it, painting it. Every painting in my house is like created either because I wanted to create the energy of whatever the symbol symbolizes, or I received, like, I'm seeing feathers everywhere. I'm seeing ducks everywhere. So like, paint a duck. What does the duck have to do, say to me? So water off a duck's back, you know? So these symbols are a way that we are like really actively being guided and being given information. If you've ever said, like, I've got to figure this out, right? Like, what if you didn't have to figure it out? What if you could just open up to receive the guidance or the next step, right? So that's what kind of working with these symbols means. And so as I'm going through this, at the end, I'll ask if any of you have, I mean, you can share with me, like, okay, I'd like a symbol to help me in this work situation or family situation or personal situation, or to help me feel more confidence or feel more courage, or, you know, whatever it is. Or you can just say, okay, Whitney, I'm thinking about a situation in my life where I would like there to be growth or expansion or newness. And usually a symbol will come to mind that can support you in that, kind of like symbol medicine. So this third symbol in the Life Artist is the diamond. And this is a symbol that I've actually been working with a lot the last couple of years. And it's an interesting one because the first association is this kind of like diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? Like kind of this more materialistic type of experience. But you'll also start seeing, if this symbol is meant to work with you right now, lots of references to the diamond. I think in Buddhism, there's a diamond path or a diamond mind or diamond consciousness. There's all kinds of references to the diamond, and it's got to do with, one, recognizing our own worth and value and preciousness, right? As an element, an expression of the divine. You are divine as well, and we're meant to remember that. It can also remind you of the multifaceted nature of who you are, of life, what's available to you, the infinite ways to have different perspectives, you know, tapping into how everything can look at things differently. I do a meditation in my Super Soul Flow course that was just kind of given to me recently, where we take a feeling that we want to feel and then imagine it radiating out from your heart, and then imagine it radiating out through this diamond space that you're in. So like every, you know, ray of compassion comes out and then goes into like the millions of different facets of the diamond and then shoots out into the world. Can sound a little crazy, and then you experience it. It feels so good. And this is like part of the medicine right now that we're able to offer, like to send. There's, in Buddhism, there's a Tonglen practice. If anyone's ever heard of the Tonglen practice, that's basically feeling into the feelings that we're feeling with the intention of transmuting kind of a negative feeling, and feeling it, and then connecting to all the other people on the planet right now who are also feeling that. And what would you want for them to feel? And then feeling that for them, and then feeling that for yourself and radiating that out. And imagine them also being able to, you know, instead of feeling depressed, to feel encouraged and hopeful, or instead of feeling alone, to feel connected, or instead of feeling unloved, to feel loved. It's beautiful. And you can use that diamond image to amplify that energy. And then it feels so good. Like it's back to that like preciousness, the preciousness of life, the preciousness of each moment. And the ritual with this is to really honor what you value the most, what you want to experience more of, and to open up to receiving that. You know, in my experience, it's really easy to like think of something we want, and then we tend to immediately go to all the reasons why we probably can't or don't have enough, ... right? So it's opening up to that aspect. And then this symbol is one that like I love painting in all my paintings. I paint it in the background just as a reminder. And it, for me, it's kind of this like star kind of light energy. And it's reminding the life artist. So it's this symbol right here. See kind of like the, looks like a little starlight, like radiating. It reminds me of the opportunity we have to trust more. Has anyone else, I can't see everybody, but maybe when I come back, if anyone else has had trust coming up, I feel like it's just coming up a lot. If you're on video, just shake your head if you've experienced that, right? Like, and again, because we can tend to, you know, want something or expect something, and then as soon as the next experience isn't in total alignment, we like, oh, it's never going to work, right? But how can you continue to trust in that moment? And so this symbol reminds me of like the magic that's available to all of us, and how important it is to radiate, like continue to radiate the energy that we want to attract, right? And again, all of this, taking it back to the abundance, you know, what we're really doing when we desire something, and you know, it's one of those like heartfelt, soul-led feeling desires, and then we immediately start discounting it or limiting it or saying it can't happen, we're tapping into scarcity, we're tapping into fear. And the invitation is, what if no matter what happens around you, you can still trust that what you desire is available and accessible? For example, the example that's coming to mind is when I was writing my first book that was published in 2008. I started writing it in 98. I had no children. I had 3 who could read it by the time it was published, right? And I'd have a friend who was a friend with a book agent. I had a book like manager person move in next door to my business. And I was like, oh, of course you are, because I have a book to be published. And then that didn't happen. I flew to New York one time to meet with another book agent, and she gave me suggestions to change the book. And by the time I emailed it back to her, I never heard from her. It turns out she'd gone on maternity leave. And like one thing after another, it took years and years and years to get that book published. But if you had ever talked to me at any point during all those, I was just like, all I know is this book is meant to happen. I don't know how. Clearly, I'd like it to happen quicker, but like I knew, I trusted that it was going to happen. And I don't honestly know where that level of trust came from, except for the fact that the book was meant to happen. And so it's this shifting as a life artist, shifting from feeling like we're alone in the world and we have to make it happen, right? To opening up to this like co-creative relationship with reality, and the power we have to declare like this book is meant to happen, and so it is. And as an infinite being, happening in 1 year or 5 years or 8 years, like that's little snippets of time. So how can we trust and be patient and trust in that timing? My latest book, Rise Above, was totally intended to come out in 96. That was my 20-year business anniversary, and it seemed like a logical time to release a book. And it didn't happen. And then I learned how 2016 was the end of a 9-year cycle, and that's when things close off. And then 2017 was the beginning of a 9-year cycle. So if you want to publish a book that you want to sell, you know, hundreds of thousands of copies, you don't want to publish it at the end of a 9-year cycle. You want to publish it at the beginning of a 9-year cycle, right? So it's just like letting go of the judgment and the criticism that we so easily put on ourselves. And trusting and opening up to the infinite, abundant nature, and that everything's here to love us, and that all those book agents and all those doors that I thought were opening that closed, that's okay. There's going to be the door that opens. You just don't sweat it, right? It would have been really easy to give up. So this symbol is all about the trust. And then in this final lesson, we put them all together. And this symbol, when you're in like my online studio here, you'll see it in many different forms. And it is a really super fun one to meditate on. Let me see if I can get this bigger. So it's all of them together. And I've been working with symbols pretty intensely since 2011. This kind of double heart with the diamond in the middle is also, you see it up here, is my logo. It's really like, it's like the gift I was given to begin this symbol journey. And what it is it's the love from above and below, from, you know, from the earth and from the cosmos. And it's the diamond in the middle that is the union, that is you. You are the union of heaven and earth. You are the treasure you seek. You are the preciousness. And then the light illuminating all of that. You know, the spirit, the trust, the energy. And so what I invite you into in this, whether it's just today or going into this course, is to open up to an experience, just open up to the experience of what it's like to work with, to have a dialogue, to engage with these symbols and try them out, you know, see what it feels like. Like, okay, so just for today, you know, I'm going to approach things from a perspective of infinite, that there are infinite possibilities, that I have infinite choices, that I am an infinite being, and see what happens. And then the next day, okay, so love is the foundation of everything, or I choose love over fear, or I just want to be aware of where am I in fear, where am I in love. It can be super sneaky. And so just play with that and see how it shifts, how you're able to interpret things. Because what I believe is these symbols, the symbols in and of themselves, are like an activation, that we all know these, that there's an aspect of you, you know, the infinite you, that's like, oh good, she found it, you know, like she's connecting with that infinity symbol, or recognizing the heart and what it's offering as far as love and compassion and self-love and self-compassion, that it will activate a level of knowing of truth within you. And I think that's kind of the whole human journey. You know, I always think of like chutes and ladders, right? Like it can't just be ladders. There has to be chutes too, right? Like that's the human journey, is like forgetting that we're infinite beings, and like, can we get to the place where we remember it? And the symbols and the personal painting practice are a way, a modality, and a form of energy work that can activate that knowing. And when you're in a creative state, there is no end to the possibilities. You're open to what else is possible. And I'm so passionate right now with everything that's going on in the world, that if we don't raise our collective frequency to one that is more predominantly creative, based on the reality right now, it'd be real easy to put things in a box and label them as like, we are doomed, it is not going to work, like, you know, what is going on with humanity? It's really vital that we stay in a place of possibility, because I don't think any of us, especially if you're on this call, I can't imagine that any of us are like, oh, we're nailing it right now, like this is perfect, right? I think we really all want to believe that there's change. And part of the kind of flip of the coin is, as a life artist, you get to create your reality. And guess what? You get to create your reality. Like we're living our experience such as, because we've chosen to look at things in a certain way, right? So what if as a life artist, you know, there was a whole new level of abundance available to you that is something that you can generate just from within. I really believe life is an inside out job, not the other way around, right? And so let's do, at least for myself, like I'm like, bring any tool, any medicine, any assistance, to help me see more of what's possible and available to me. And I love that. I absolutely love it. So I would love if any of you either have any questions or like, wait a second, go back to the diamond. What did you say about that? Or if you would like to receive a symbol just for you that can support you in maybe a transition or a threshold or transition you'd love to have happen. And you can speak it out loud or not, that's up to you. I'm going to switch back to the gallery view so I can see everybody. And if you're not on video for whatever reason, that's fine. You can enter in the chat. You see the chat down there. If you move your cursor, there's a chat button, and then you can type your question or comment there. So anyway, Sharon, I love everything you're doing. Just go love yourself. It's so perfect, right? I can feel like that inner critic and how judgmental we are of ourselves is kind of like an epidemic. Like, we've been taught it. We've been taught that, we have to make ourselves better in order to pass and be worthy and, be secure and all these things. And none of that was ill intended, but it's just not quite the right way. Like, like it's not quite the pathway to personal fulfillment. And so thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here to share this with us.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious, I don't know if this is in that same vein, but if you were to offer a symbol for the community, is there one that you think?
Yeah. Okay, so the one that just came to me right now is, I'm chuckling because I've worked with this symbol a couple years ago. It's the arrow. You guys see arrows everywhere? Do you see, like, they're kind of like this hip bohemian, kind of artsy symbol right now. So the arrow, so I'll tell you how I started to work with it, is I was journaling and, meditating and everything, and I kept getting the question, like, what do you want? And I think for a lot of, especially women, it can be really hard. Like, if I said to all of you right now, you have got to, no matter what, tell me what you most want in your life right now. I think, in my experience, and me personally, it can be hard to articulate that because we don't want to be selfish and we don't want to be self-centered and we want to help everybody, and it just feels indulgent to just decide, I want this, like, don't be a spoiled brat, blah, 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 all that stuff. But what I got was that, like, we all have just a panel, an army of help, of support behind us, ready, because you all are tapped into this. You're working with Sharon, you got to me, like, you signed up for a life of growth and expansion and to lead others, yourself first, over this bridge from fear to love. So you have got, like, whatever, guardian angels and archangels, whatever it is, so much help, support, ready and waiting for your command. Right? And that whole free will thing, like, you have to say, you have to ask out loud for help. You have to tell them what you want. And it was just like, Whitney, you've got this army behind you, but we can't, do anything until you tell us what you want. And I was much more comfortable being like, oh, I'm so grateful for this and that, and really it's enough. And, other people have less than I do, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's not about that. Like, we just want to help you manifest and create what will bring you joy so that you can raise the vibration of everyone around you. So what do you want? What's gonna help you, like, believe and be this, like, warrior in this world to, help everybody shift their perspective from fear to love? And it was like, whoa. And then where I live, the Nez Perce Indians were free and, living their lives until 1877. And where I live was the last part of the continental U.S. to be settled. And I had just learned, right before this all came to me, how they were famous for their arrows. So people would travel, tribes and traders would travel hundreds of miles, like, walking on horseback to trade their precious, animal skins or beads or whatever for these arrows. So if you got an arrow, and I am very familiar with the process of, like, Like, it's like you're going out to hunt, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to hunt a deer for dinner, and I'm just going to like start shooting arrows and trust that I'll get a deer, right? If you have one of these arrows, you are going to be so careful to like aim and focus and align with like exactly what you want, and send all of your energy and all of your belief and all of your visualization in that direction, because your survival depends on it, and that arrow is precious, and it demands that kind of focus attention, right? So the medicine of the arrow is to like permission to focus time and energy and intention and attention on what you desire, and that is worthy, and that is medicine for you and the world, and that you are not being selfish or self-centered. You are giving the platform to your deepest desires and your deepest truth, and that those desires are not, they didn't originate in like the cells of your brain. They originated in the ethers, and they are being given to you because they want to be experienced in this physical reality. So you are meant to honor those desires. And so the arrow is the ability to really focus and declare, this is what I want. I choose this. And then you let go of the how. Like, I have been renting a house for 6 years since I got divorced, and I love my house, but they're moving back in next May, and I have this whole vision around my future home, and it's going to be the art shram. So it's part art studio, part ashram, and I'm living there with like 4 of my soul sisters, and life is easy because together we can pay the bills no problem. And I don't want to live with a man again. I love men, but I don't want to live with them anyway. So like, pressure's on, right? And my parents have to co-sign since I'm, whatever, self-employed and all this stuff. And I've put in offers on houses, and they've fallen through. And I just like, it's just, this is what I want. I trust that it's going to work out perfectly. I am declaring that I want the, oh, hell yeah, as soon as I walk in the door or I see the property, right? And I'm like, and that's the future I choose. Like, I declare that, like, that's it. And then when I see these other houses and I'm like, well, maybe, it's like, oh, you wait for the hell yeah, right? So it's that energy, right? And then along with it, so this is another example, like, so then along with it, maybe when you imagine the arrow tomorrow, like I just tapped into that warrior energy, right? Like that fierceness, like, oh no, that's not good enough for me. I want better, right? Because for me, like this art shram is this, like, it's an example of a new kind of template, a new way that we could imagine being safe, secure, and loved, that is different from the traditional, you have to be married to a man to be safe, secure, and loved, right? So I've got like 4 planets in my 7th house, so apparently this is part of my deal. And so that arrow can also remind you to summon up your warrior self, right? To just be strong and like, I say so, this is the way it's going to happen. So, so that would be the image I have. And just pay attention, like see how many arrows you see in the next 24 hours. Or, maybe you want to, or maybe you'll see them around your house, or, draw one and just see what comes to you. Just play with it. Just try, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, Whitney, the arrow didn't do anything, I'm like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Like, don't worry about it, but try it. Like, see what happens. Google arrow and like, just see which one's your favorite. Make it your screensaver, or take a picture and put it on your phone, and just see what comes up in the next 24 hours.
That's awesome. So you guys will have to let me know, because this is the symbol for the community, right? So arrows come up, you let me know, maybe take a picture of it and drop it in the Facebook. I'll be curious to see how many arrows come up for all of us that are here.
Right.
So I also see Nicole dropped in the chat, I'm really battling perfectionism and fear right now. I would love a symbol to help me be courageous in embracing imperfection. And I know that perfectionism comes up for our community loud and clear often. So I think, Nicole, thank you for offering that and sharing that. I think that'll be helpful for a lot of people to hear.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have 2 for you. So the first one is, I know one of all of our favorite symbols is the spiral. Okay, so Perfectionism is kind of dependent on this belief that there is like a bar, or there is this like level of achievement, rather than the opposite might be like just this unconditional love and acceptance, right? So the spiral is this constant like moving, growing, expanding, kind of no beginning, no end kind of symbol, right? And so as opposed to even the circle, right, that's contained, the spiral is open. So there isn't really an end. There's not a label. And the spiral is, you know, the ancient symbol of the universe, or the galaxy. You know, you look at our galaxy from a distance, and it's this big spiral, and it's constantly expanding. It's also connected to feminine intuition and feminine wisdom. So you can literally, like when you're feeling perfectionism, you can just imagine, like whether you close your eyes or not, but just imagine like the spiral, however it comes to you. Imagine a spiral just like spiraling into the space, right? And from a spiral, there's no one right answer. There's no one way of doing it. Everything's part of the spectrum, right? And then I would invite you, like imagine your life as this kind of spiral. Like where did that perfectionism, where's the kind of the root, the seed of that perfectionism, you know? And then understand, as an infinite being, that's like one little itty bitty experience, and now you understand perfectionism, right? But now you can release and say like, okay, so perfectionism serves me in a lot of ways. Like I had a client who was a lawyer, a very successful lawyer in Nashville. And as lawyers, like my dad was a lawyer, like you cannot make a mistake, right? Like you can't write a brief or show up in trial and be like, oh wait, what I meant to say is this, right? Sorry, that triggered a memory. Anyway, so the perfectionism serves her very well as a lawyer, but it did not serve her well with her teenage daughter or her ex-husband. You know, like she was just blanket perfect, trying to be perfect in everything. And she said, art class is the first time I realized that it's okay to make a mistake. Right? So that spiral is different from like the one right answer, right? Like the fill in the bubble kind of thing. So play with the spiral. And then the animal totem that came to me is the snake, the serpent. And that came to me, one, because the snake has been traditionally, reviled and like this evil creature, right? Like bottom of the barrel. I mean, even Indiana Jones, like snakes, why do they have to be snakes? And then I think, at least my story, if you look up like animal symbolism, like snake medicine is like the most powerful. And I've come to understand that anything that's been villainized or made to be evil or bad, including women, right, is because there's so much power there. And the snake is able to shed its skin. So I think the snake wants to help you shed that perfectionism skin. It's not you experiencing that perfectionism is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. And the whole reason you're battling it right now is because you're trying to let it go. Like it wouldn't be coming up if it wasn't in a level of dissonance with what you're meant to be stepping into. So it's kind of like, okay, Nicole, to get to this next level that you want to go, this next level of self-love, this next level of confidence, you're going to want to shed this perfectionism, because it's just an old skin, it's an old story, it's an old belief system that has been imposed or that you took on. I mean, I think all of us have dealt with that perfectionism or are dealing with it, but it doesn't have to be part of your future. So let the snake and the spiral. Of course, snakes, you can imagine the snake in the spiral. That's pretty fun. I love working with snakes. Snake is the ease and grace animal totem in my book, Rise Above, the chapter Ease and Grace. The animal totem is the snake. So pretty fun. And if you want to paint a snake, you learn a lot. Do any of you have my book, Rise Above? You realize you're going to in your near future. It's on Amazon.com. I have to be shameless self-promotion. Oh, you do? Nepal? Yeah, thank you. It's beautiful, right? Like, it's magical. I created pure magic in that book. So yeah, check it out on Amazon. But the snake is, I was painting the snake, just getting like, okay, so, you know, and wherever we are as a collective or as individuals in our relationship with the snake is symbolic of kind of our journey from fear to love. Like, I think we all were raised to fear snakes, and then probably most of you love snakes. I mean, not that you necessarily want to touch one, although anyway, I've had a lot of snake experiences lately. Nicole, okay. Oh, you had a dream about a snake last night. Oh, that's good medicine, girl. Oh, perfect. I love it. Awesome. I love talking about this stuff. It's so fun. Does anyone have anything else? Oh, Kristen. Okay. See, now you guys are getting unshy. Okay. I'm about to embark on a huge job change and basically generating a new type of business and position format. There's fear, trepidation, excitement, massive idea generating. Love to have intuitive. Okay, seriously. So as soon as I saw change in generating, I'm like, butterfly. And then you even put metamorphosis. Silly. Where is Kristen? Oh, there you are, up there. Okay. Oh, your job change from the vet, huh? Okay. So so the butterfly. So and I've just been talking about the butterfly. So you know how the butterfly turns, you know, caterpillar, cocoon, goo. Like I don't even know how that works. Turns to goo. And like, I'm sure it's not, they don't feel, but just imagine turning to goo. It seems uncomfortable, right? It seems like, you know, I was joking with the class last night, like, just imagine a butterfly, like, why do I have to turn into goo? Why can't I be like a bird or these other winged creatures? Like, why do I have to go through this, right? Why me? And it gets to transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And if you try and help a butterfly out, right? Like you see it like starting to get out of the cocoon, you're like, oh, I'm going to save the butterfly, help it out, and cut it out of the cocoon. It will emerge with those beautiful wings, but it will never be able to fly because it builds up its strength from the act of breaking out of the cocoon, right? So it's like whatever's going on in this transition, whatever the mucky, gooey, dark elements of it are, it's all preparing you for that flight. I kind of have butterfly wings on now. So yeah, so work with the butterfly and see what happens. And that's fun because you'll start seeing butterflies everywhere now if you haven't already. Awesome. Okay, does anyone, oh, and then Michelle has one, moving forward with my own business. So the Triskelion symbol, Michelle, do you know that symbol?
I do not.
So it's a Celtic symbol. And it's, I'll spell it. It's Triskelion. Yeah. And it's kind of got a triple spiral thing, but it's, because there is a triple spiral symbol too, but the Triskelion symbol is, has a little less spirally, but it's a whole symbol for change and movement. And I worked with it right when I was, like coming to grips with the fact that I was actually going to move out and get divorced. Really scary. Mm-hmm. So I painted that. I still have the painting, and I actually painted a double Triskelion because I kind of saw it drawn two different ways, and I just drew both because I was like, let's just accelerate this change, you know, move through this chapter. But it's an ancient Celtic symbol, and it's very powerful.
It does feel that way because I'm leaving like a big box medical clinic, so it does feel like that same divorce energy. Like,
yeah, and you've got a lot invested there, and then you're like risking, you know, kind of throwing all of that away, and yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
Yeah, read up on that. It'll be interesting. I mean, I wear Google out, you guys. Like, people will be like, how did you learn about it? I mean, I have so many symbol books, and I've been teaching it and painting them, and, you know, I'll see something everywhere and I look it up, and I still have to look up, you know, I still have to look up things, but we can get any symbol information right away. So when you're going through your life, you know, in the day to day, and you're like, wow, yeah, I'm seeing inchworms everywhere. Like, they're coming out of the trees, or I'm seeing, you know, lotus flowers or whatever it is that you'll recognize, like, wow, that's like the fifth blankety blank that I've seen. Look it up. Look up the symbolism. There's an awesome website. I'll type it in here. what'syoursign.com. And it's like what's-your-sign.com. It has just about everything, and that's really fun. You know, the Native Americans saw like everything in their world as allies. And, you know, the rocks were the sitting people, the trees were the standing people, the animals were all, you know, embodied spirits and guides, and they were always like looking, you know, to what guidance they were receiving. And so we can do the same thing still, right? So check that out. Yeah. Well, thanks you guys so much for being here and Sharon for creating this opportunity. And again, the easiest, you can go to just WhitneyFreyaStudio.com and register for the free Life Artist course. And I don't know if I'm in your group, Sharon. Sorry, I can't barely keep track.
That's okay. I'm happy to invite you and make sure of it.
Yeah, if you invite me in and maybe poke me if you're like, people are talking about, but like I would love to hop on Facebook Live, and you know, if you guys are kind of watching the videos are fun, and just having this experience, or just like, oh my gosh, Whitney, I'm seeing spirals everywhere. Or, you know, some of you will look around your house and you start seeing like, oh my God, I didn't even realize, like I have this whole collection, or like every pillow on my couch has spirals in it. Or
Whitney, I have to tell you, I've taken that life course before, and I just loved at the end how you went to that painting that you had painted like a year ago, and you found those symbols in your painting. I just thought that was the coolest thing. I just had to tell you that. And everybody go take the class. It's really fun, really easy, and just enjoyable. It's really enjoyable.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you for saying so.
Before you hop off, I know Nepal was super interested in coming and super sad that she couldn't join us in our earlier one today. So I want to make sure that she gets a chance. Would you mind giving her a symbol?
Of course. Okay, so without...
What's your story? What's going on for you?
What is going on for me? I just think right now I am a mother. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm just at this point where my 2-year-old is getting ready to stop breastfeeding. I'm in the weaning process right now, and I'm kind of just like trying to find that balance between being a mom and yet really honoring myself, because in the last 6 years since I had my first child, I completely like got off track of like figuring out who I was, what I was into. And just like I would say probably in the last like 3 months, I've really kind of gotten back into like that search again. But then you realize that it's not out there, it's all right here. And so that's kind of the realization I've been having lately, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. So there are 2 symbols that are coming to me, and I think I'm understanding why. So the first one was the lotus flower. And the lotus flower, you know, is recognized as like the world's most beautiful bloom and the symbol of purity and enlightenment. But it is such because it has these thick roots. I mean, literally, they're like that thick, rooted in the muckiest muck, right? Like the riverbeds, the goopy, sticky, like lose your shoe kind of thing. And so the lotus flower is all about how like the muck, life's muck, which doesn't mean bad. It just means like sticky or dense or heavy or whatever, is there to help us bloom. It's the fertilizer, it's the nutrient, it's the, what am I thinking, like compost kind of thing, right? That because of the muck, we become the bloom. Without it, we wouldn't be able to bloom. And then the other one is the yin and yang symbol. So it speaks to the contrast. So one of the things that I love teaching and talking about is how we learn through contrast. Like it's through contrast that we become clearer and clearer about who we are, what we want, what's important to us. And so, and what I've experienced, and I mean, I'm sure you guys will all agree, is that, you know, we cannot understand, for example, nighttime and starlight without first experiencing daytime and the sunlight, right? Like if it was light all the time, we wouldn't have any concept of darkness. And likewise, also, like we can't experience the joy of like liberation and freedom if we haven't first felt stuck or trapped, right? So what that means is whatever you're experiencing right now that feels challenging or heavy or dense is there to prepare you to then experience the contrast, right? To experience giving yourself away or losing yourself or getting off track, to be like, hey, I don't want to be off track. Like, this is what off track feels like. This doesn't, this isn't what I want. So now I'm going to choose the other. You wouldn't be given the opportunity of feeling off track if you weren't then meant to experience being on track. Yeah.
I really like that. The yin and yang has always been really big in my life. So it was funny that you said that, because I've worked with that symbol before. I struggle with addiction. And in my addiction, it was about finding that balance of, feeling really good and trying to run away from feeling really bad. And then having that awareness that you need both for a full life. And so yeah, thank you, Whitney. I also just want to say I'm such a fangirl. Like, your work it matters. And I just hope that you know that. Like, you put these courses out and these offerings out, and I'm saving money right now for your Grease watercolor class. And so someday I'll send you a little email when I'm in there checking it out. But I'm really excited I got a chance to say hi.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for saying it. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really do. It is always fun to connect with people. I mean, just connecting online, it really, I'm in Seattle and I'm meeting some of my coaches for the first time in person, but it's kind of like, hey, like you're like we're so familiar already.
No.
We never met, of course, as an infinite being, I think we've met over and over and over. But I'm grateful for the opportunities like this to connect kind of in person-ish, right? So thank you. I appreciate it. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yay! Well, I'm pretty accessible. So if anyone wants to follow up or you're watching the replay, you can email me from my website or go to whitneyfreyastudio.com. Anytime you comment below any of those lessons, I get an email and I reply back as soon as possible. I love being in the conversation, so we can stay connected that way. And if Sharon invites me into the private group, just message me if I just did not organize my Facebook well as far as notifications. So it's not that everyone's notifying. I'm getting notified every time anyone posts anything. I don't even know. So message me if I'm being called for in there. I would love it. Very fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Whitney, thank you so much for being here, for sharing all of this wisdom with us, and for sharing all of the symbols with us too. Going around and helping us one-on-one was amazing and a pretty great gift. So I really appreciate that. I'll make sure that you are invited into the group. And then if you could just share this recording with me, I'll make sure to post this in the group too. That way we can start a conversation under the video. I know Nepal is like, I can't wait to see the replay. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other people too. So
good.
That and make sure that you're part of the group. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for spending your time being here and for dedicating time to you and what you deserve. I think the arrow is perfect for that, right? For making sure to have that focus on what is right for you and to committing time to it. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to talking to everyone again soon.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. Bye.
Bye.